What if I told you that Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest king in history, could walk into 2025 with only $100 in his pocket and still build an empire? Sounds impossible, right? But the Bible already hides the blueprint. The same principles that took Solomon from nothing to unimaginable riches are still alive today, and they can work for you too. Most people think making money is all about chasing the newest business trend. But that's a lie that keeps generations broke. The truth is, God's word reveals that the path to wealth doesn't start with millions. It starts with how you handle the little you already have. In fact, Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." And that's exactly where this journey begins. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but the fastest way to abundance isn't about inventing the next big app or waiting for luck to strike. It's about applying timeless biblical wisdom in a modern world. Solomon didn't pray for money, he prayed for wisdom. And with wisdom, money followed. That's the same principle you can apply today, even if all you have is $100 to your name. If you like our content, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. Because in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how Solomon's mindset would play out if he had to start all over again today. And if you lean in and take notes, you'll see that building wealth God's way is not just possible, it's inevitable. The $100. Beginning, humility before wealth. Imagine Solomon, the wisest king who ever lived, starting with just $100 in his hand. He wouldn't despise the small beginning, because Proverbs 13:11 reminds us, "Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow." The first lesson here is humility. Before money multiplies, it must be respected, no matter how little it seems. In today's world, that means not being ashamed to start small, whether through a simple side hustle or a disciplined job. Many people miss opportunities because they're waiting for the perfect business idea to fall into their lap. Solomon would not make that mistake. He would see that $100 as seed capital, not dead money. With humility, he would focus on small, consistent steps, like stacking a little profit daily instead of chasing instant millions. Even Jesus praised the servant who multiplied only 2 talents, not just the one with 5, Matthew 25:22-23. The key wasn't the size, it was faithfulness. In practical terms, starting with $100 today could mean buying books that expand your financial wisdom before trying to make money. Imagine Solomon walking into an Amazon bookstore in 2025. He wouldn't grab luxury items, he'd pick up The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham or Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Knowledge is a multiplier far greater than consumer goods. It's better to invest in wisdom before you try to expand wealth. Solomon would also teach that humility is about doing what others think is beneath them. Washing a car, delivering groceries, flipping secondhand items. These are not glamorous, but they are effective. Proverbs 14:23 says, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." With $100, Solomon would choose action over appearance. He would work today so that tomorrow he can build. But humility is not just about action, it's about mindset. The modern entrepreneur often falls into the trap of ego, thinking that only startups and apps can make them rich. Solomon would laugh at such pride. He would say, "Before you build towers, learn to lay bricks." That means using that $100 to create breathing room, build discipline, and master small victories before dreaming of empires. And here lies the hidden wisdom. Humility before wealth is the soil where lasting abundance grows. If you can't steward $100 faithfully, you will not steward $1 million. This is why Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." And once this foundation is set, the next step naturally emerges, transforming the fruit of work into the wisdom that unlocks your first $10,000. The first $10,000, turning a work into wisdom. The leap from $100 to your first $10,000 is not about luck. It's about turning consistent work into lasting wisdom. Solomon would see this stage as the training ground of financial character. Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, "Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might." In modern terms, that means side hustles, extra hours, and practical jobs are not just about making money. They're about sharpening your ability to manage discipline, time, and resources. This is the phase where humility meets hustle. Instead of despising ordinary work, Solomon would see value in delivering groceries, freelancing online, or reselling products. Each task becomes a stepping stone, not just to earn money, but to develop habits of diligence. A man working DoorDash today, for example, is not just earning tips. He's learning customer service, efficiency, and consistency. Solomon would recognize that as the hidden gold. But Solomon would also warn, work without wisdom is wasted energy. If you stack $10,000 by grinding, yet never reflect on what the process is teaching you, you've lost half the value. The goal is not only to have money in your pocket, but to develop skills that can later be multiplied. Side hustles should be chosen not only for income, but for what they teach. Video editing sharpens creativity, sales jobs build persuasion, digital freelancing builds adaptability. Financial discipline at this stage is non-negotiable. Many will earn $10,000 and spend it on lifestyle upgrades, but Solomon would remind them of Proverbs 21:20. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Saving aggressively, avoiding debt traps, and reinvesting in self-education would be the path to keep momentum alive. Every dollar saved extends the opportunity to grow. This is also the time to expose yourself to knowledge that costs less than the mistakes it will prevent. For example, instead of spending $500 on gadgets, Solomon would advise investing in financial education courses, biblical finance books, or even mentorship sessions with those further ahead. Each small investment in wisdom multiplies tenfold in avoided errors and faster growth. The wisdom behind the first $10,000 is that it's less about the money itself and more about who you become while earning it. Once Solomon had that seed of experience, he would see that the next stage was not simply about stacking more dollars, but about transforming skill into value that others would gladly pay for. And that's where the journey takes a powerful turn. Skills that multiply, wisdom applied to business. If Solomon stood in 2025 with just $10,000 saved, he wouldn't stop at the grind. He'd invest in skills that multiply. Remember how he asked God not for riches, but for wisdom? 1 Kings 3:9. That same principle applies here. Money without skill evaporates, but skill guided by wisdom multiplies money. In today's marketplace, the most valuable skills are those that create leverage, skills that turn time into scalable results. Think about AI. Many fear it, but Solomon would see it as a tool, not a threat. The same way he studied the ants to learn diligence, Proverbs 6:6, he would study AI to learn efficiency. A person who knows how to integrate AI into a business can charge thousands for that knowledge alone. That's why mastering tools like ChatGPT or AI-driven analytics isn't just trendy, it's strategic. The return is not only income, but positioning yourself where the world is heading. Then comes the art of creating viral content. In Solomon's time, wisdom attracted rulers from faraway nations. Today, attention is the currency that opens doors. Companies worth billions struggle to capture what a simple TikTok creator can achieve in a week. Solomon would master this, not for vanity, but to channel influence into building a lasting business. Attention is the modern version of having a voice in the marketplace gates. But even with AI and influence, the foundation remains sales and marketing. Without persuasion, value remains invisible. Solomon wrote in Proverbs 11:26, "People curse the one who hoards grain, but they pray God's blessing on the one who is willing to sell." Selling is not manipulation, it is service, helping others see the solution they already need. And marketing is simply telling that story well. Solomon would learn these arts to ensure his skills turned into revenue streams. Practical application today could look like this. If you've been posting short videos on TikTok Shop, don't stop there. Package that skill and offer content creation services to businesses. If you've been tinkering with AI prompts, market yourself to local companies drowning in inefficiency. Each skill is a seed, and when planted in the right field, business, it yields exponential harvest. The wisdom of this stage is clear. Solomon would not rely on raw hustle forever. He would shift his focus to mastering high-value skills that make money flow towards him instead of away from him. And once those skills take root, the next step is inevitable. Building leverage that transforms work into a business that generates wealth even while you sleep. Building leverage, from labor to lasting business. At some point, Solomon would recognize that hustle alone cannot sustain long-term prosperity. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season. There is a season to work with your hands, and then a season to build systems that work for you." Leverage is the turning point. When money and skills are combined to create a business that multiplies income without demanding constant labor. In today's terms, that could mean building an e-commerce store, launching a scalable digital product, or developing a service that runs on automation. Solomon would not waste years chasing the illusion of passive income without structure. He would construct businesses with wisdom, ensuring that even while he rested, his systems generated value for others. This is Proverbs 31 in action. the picture of diligence, where a household runs on order and foresight. Leverage is not about abandoning work, but about elevating it. Instead of selling your time for dollars, you sell a product, an idea, or a system that serves thousands. For Solomon, leverage might have looked like trade routes and alliances. In 2025, it looks like Shopify stores, subscription services, or digital courses. The principle is the same: multiply reach while reducing dependence on your direct labor. But building leverage also requires foresight against failure. Solomon would caution that many people rush into business unprepared, confusing speed with wisdom. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." To avoid collapse, he would test ideas small, reinvest profits, and expand only once foundations were steady. Leverage without wisdom is simply risk disguised as ambition. An example today might be someone using their skill in video editing to create a course. Instead of charging one client at a time, they package their knowledge and sell it repeatedly. Or a person skilled in AI could build a consulting service that trains dozens of companies at once. These are modern forms of Solomon's ancient principle. Turn wisdom into structures that continue producing wealth. This stage is where financial freedom begins to take shape. Hustle provided survival, skills provided multiplication, but leverage provides sustainability. And once this door is opened, Solomon would address a dangerous trap waiting at the threshold: the temptation of lifestyle inflation, the vanity that threatens to erase everything gained. Guarding against lifestyle inflation. Solomon's warning on vanity. One of the greatest threats to building wealth is not losing money, it's spending it foolishly once it arrives. Solomon, who tasted riches beyond imagination, wrote in Ecclesiastes 2:11, "Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind." Lifestyle inflation is the modern version of vanity. It tricks you into believing you are richer than you are, while silently draining your future. When someone reaches their first $100,000, the temptation is strong. Upgrade the car, move to a nicer apartment, buy luxury clothes. But Solomon would remind us that wisdom preserves wealth, while vanity consumes it. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." In today's terms, the fool buys liabilities. The wise reinvests into assets. Think about the story of the prodigal son. His inheritance was not lost in war or theft. It was wasted on reckless living. Many in 2025 repeat this same pattern, not with pigs and wild parties, but with gadgets, subscriptions, and credit card debt. Solomon would warn, guard your harvest, or it will rot in your hands. Protecting your money is not stinginess, it is stewardship. Practical wisdom at this stage looks like setting boundaries. For instance, keeping your lifestyle nearly the same even as your income grows. Instead of upgrading from a used Toyota to a brand new Tesla, use the margin to invest in dividend-paying stocks, real estate, or expand your business. The test is not whether you can make money, it's whether you can keep it long enough to multiply. Another safeguard Solomon would stress is accountability. Wealth grows best in community. Just as he surrounded himself with counselors, you might need mentors, financial advisors, or even a study group that challenges you to remain disciplined. When you have others reminding you of the bigger picture, it's easier to resist the pull of vanity purchases that promise happiness but deliver emptiness. This warning is not meant to restrict joy but to preserve destiny. Wealth without restraint collapses under its own weight. Solomon knew it firsthand, and he would remind us today, the enemy of abundance is not poverty. It is pride disguised as progress. And once that trap is avoided, the journey opens to a new stage, transforming $100,000 into a season of accelerated multiplication where seed finally becomes harvest. The $100K turning point, from seed to harvest. Reaching $100,000 is not just a financial milestone, it is a spiritual and strategic shift. At this stage, Solomon would view the money not as an end goal but as seed ready for harvest. Galatians 6:7 reminds us, "A man reaps what he sows." The question is no longer if you can make money, but how you will steward it, so that it multiplies under God's wisdom. The first $100K carries a hidden power, momentum. In business and finance, momentum is like compound interest for discipline. Once systems are in place, every wise decision multiplies faster than before. Solomon would say this is the season where small beginnings turn into great trees, echoing Jesus' parable of the mustard seed in Matthew 13:31-32. What looked insignificant now grows beyond expectation. But this turning point demands greater responsibility. With $100K, the temptation is to relax. But Proverbs 6:10, 11 warns, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief. Solomon would advise doubling down on what works, refining processes, and reinvesting profits rather than pausing for comfort. The harvest requires vigilance. In practical terms, this might mean scaling a proven business model instead of chasing new shiny ideas. For example, if your e-commerce store is profitable, invest in better marketing and customer experience instead of abandoning it for the next trend. Or, if consulting with AI has produced consistent income, build a small team to expand capacity. The turning point is about depth, not distraction. This stage is also where specialized education becomes critical. Solomon invested in wisdom above gold, and today that could mean paying for masterminds, high-level mentorships, or industry-specific certifications. A few $1,000s spent here could unlock strategies that add hundreds of thousands later. Education at this level is not a cost. It is acceleration. Ultimately, the $100K mark is the bridge between survival and true abundance. It is where discipline collides with divine favor, and where money begins to work harder than you do. Solomon would frame it as a season of harvest, but not the final one. Because the real test is still ahead. How to refine what works under God's direction to transition from six figures to enduring abundance. From $100K to abundance, refining what works under God's direction. When Solomon reached the height of his reign, his wealth didn't come from chasing every opportunity, but from refining what worked. Trade routes, alliances, and wisdom-led governance. In the same way, once a person reaches $100K in 2025, the path to abundance is not about starting from scratch, but about sharpening what already produces fruit. Proverbs 24:27 teaches, "Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house." In other words, refine before expanding. This stage is about optimization. Maybe you've built an e-commerce store, a consulting practice, or a content platform. Solomon would advise improving every detail: customer experience, marketing strategies, partnerships, so that the system runs with excellence. Abundance flows not from half-done work, but from mastery. Small adjustments here, like better inventory management or sharper ad campaigns, can multiply profits without new risks. At this point, reinvestment becomes crucial. The fool consumes new profits on lifestyle. The wise redirect them into scaling. Real estate, dividend stocks, or expanding a proven business model. These are not distractions, but vehicles to preserve and grow wealth. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." Diversification is not fear, it is prudence. But beyond money, Solomon would stress alignment with God's direction. Abundance without divine order leads to collapse. We see it in 1 Kings 11, where despite his wisdom, Solomon's misaligned heart caused his kingdom to fracture. In finance, that means remembering that wealth is stewardship, not ownership. Every decision at this stage should be filtered through prayer, accountability, and kingdom purpose. Practical wisdom here might include building teams that carry the vision forward, creating systems that protect both profits and values, and ensuring your wealth is aligned with generosity. A business that makes money but ignores mission is fragile. Solomon would say, without purpose, profit becomes a burden. True abundance is financial strength that also produces impact and legacy. And so, the journey from $100 to abundance reaches its climax not in the number of zeros on the bank account, but in a life ordered by wisdom. For Solomon, wealth was never just about money. It was about building something that glorified God and endured beyond him. And in 2025, that same principle remains. Refine what works, honor God with your increase, and abundance will follow. So now the question is, what will you do with what you've just learned? You can walk away inspired, or you can apply this wisdom and start turning your own $100 into a testimony of God's provision. Remember, Solomon didn't just accumulate wealth. He built a legacy that pointed back to the source of all wisdom. Will you let your money serve vanity, or will you let it serve your calling? Think about it. What's holding you back? Is it fear, bad habits, or the lie that you need more before you start? The truth is, you already have what you need to begin. God has placed both resources and creativity in your hands. The only missing ingredient is your decision to act. I want to challenge you. Don't just be a listener. Be a doer. Start with the small, refine your skills, build leverage, and above all, align every dollar with God's direction. Because when money and purpose walk together, abundance follows naturally. Write in the comments, "I declare abundance over my finances," and watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances from this day forward. And finally, if this message spoke to you in any way, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can keep learning how to build money, business, and purpose God's way.